everybody. Welcome to College of Lore. My name is Kate.
And I'm Jill.
And today, what are we doing, Jill?
Oh, we're talking about Moot!
A new book!
Mythic Odysseys of Theros.
Yes.
I abbreviated it to Moot in one of our Discord channels, and Kate laughed at me.
Yes, because that's a word also.
Because instead of calling it, capital M, capital O, small o, big T, I was just like, Moot.
Moot. And then we had this moot College of Lore, College of Lore is moot. It's a moot point.
I'm excited about this book, Kate.
Me too. I'm very excited about it. So just as a summary, this is another Magic the Gathering setting. I think we mentioned this in our last stream where we talked about Guildmaster's Guide to Ravnica. So
Yes.
Theros is another Magic the Gathering setting, and it's very... how would you describe it? I'm losing all of my words right now, but it's
This one's more classical. Remember Romanesque or Greek
Roman
kind
and
of
Greek
inspired.
gods. So think like a special pantheon. Think heroes who are intimately connected to those gods. Very real influence of the gods on the mortal realm. And something that I don't know that I really realized before reading this source book, but actually the gods themselves and the world itself is sort of created by human beliefs, right? Widespread human belief or piety in a particular god brings that god into creation and makes them more powerful, right?
Yeah. It's like a popularity contest. It's just like high school.
Yes. I really love this setting. The art, just like other, I think, Magic source content, is
good.
really stunning.
Oh. This might be my favorite art in a D&D book so far.
Yeah, so one of the main reasons that I loved the Theros Magic set was because of the art, and I probably own about as many Theros cards as I own Ravnica cards. So these are my two favorite settings.
That's exciting.
I know. So yeah, it's very cool.
I was just sneakily flipping through while you were saying that to show off.
So yeah.
So are we gonna do what we did with Ravnica and kind of start with the table of contents and kind of go through the book a little bit?
Yeah, let's do that.
Here we go.
So here's something interesting. I don't know. Did you have a physical copy of Guildmaster's
Ravnica?
Guide? Yeah. Is that what you were using?
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Jill owns the physical. We were discussing this before the stream. She owns the physical copies of the books and also has them on D&D Beyond sometimes as well. But this is the first book that I purchased it on D&D Beyond, and I do not have a physical copy. So I'm looking at it online only, which is really interesting for me. But Jill
it's really great for navigation.
Yeah, and searching, I would assume. But
yeah.
But
yeah.
I mean, nothing beats flipping through a book
and smelling it.
Yeah, I don't have that smell.
Oh, that book glue smell.
Like a bullet journal I could smell while I'm reading it. Would that?
Yeah, just to create that sensation of yeah.
It's like a nicotine patch.
Yeah. Smart. It's you can quell your addiction to purchasing the book since you kind of already have it. So
I want to buy the book. Anyway.
It is too beautiful to pass up.
Yeah, we'll see when it goes on sale, something like that.
Right, okay.
So
ask for a birthday present.
I could, but then it's why wouldn't I ask for something I don't already own for my birthday?
It's tricky.
My birthday's coming up though in September, so.
If anyone wants to send Kate a Theros book,
I'll send you my address. And yeah.
I'm sure that'll be fine.
Yeah, nothing wrong. Nothing bad can come of this.
Nothing weird about that. Okay.
All right, so
So,
table of contents. There's some background stuff to start off to introduce you to the world of Theros and how it works and such.
mhm.
Then a whole chapter on character creation. So there's some really cool character creation stuff in here, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Then an entire chapter on the gods of Theros. So, like I said, this special pantheon of gods is sort of the main thing that's going on in this book. If the main thing that's going on in Ravnica is like the city of Ravnica and the guilds, well,
Yeah.
in this book, it's the land of Theros and the gods, right?
Yes, definitely.
Then chapter 3 is all about the realms of gods and mortals. So this is sort of orienting you to the land of Theros and the different kind of planes that exist there. And then on the mortal realm, the geography of that and the cities that they call police.
Yeah, I think that's the
So P
yeah,
word.
I'm not sure how to pronounce it either.
Yeah.
Polis, but like yeah, so it's like
the singular is Polis, which I think is polis.
Yeah.
And then plural, it's like Poleis. Am I correct?
Yeah.
That's weird.
Yeah, you are correct. Because that's what they called large cities in, is it Greece? Ancient Greece or ancient Rome? I'm not sure. I'm not
is
very...
that true? Yeah, see, I
Yeah.
don't have a lot of history here, so I was like, why did they have to think of a new name for cities? Come on, guys. Like, just call them cities.
Yeah, no, that's the... They're you know, they're very heavily influenced by their source material for sure.
Well, that's good, I think.
Yeah.
All right, so after that, like, geography chapter 4 is a guide to creating Theros adventures. So
A lot of interesting stuff in that chapter, but we'll get to that.
We will get to that. I find it cool too. And then that's really the last chapter that I kind of read in detail. But after that, there's a chapter about treasures and a chapter
and
called...
then
Oh, go ahead.
the bestiary.
Oh, yes, friends and foes. So this is like, yeah, the goody monsters. I mean, some people would say this is the best part. But I like it all.
Yeah, it is so good. It is so good.
Ooh, and then a whole bunch of maps in that chapter as well.
In the
Friends.
creating adventures one?
Maybe in my D&D Beyond fancy version of the book, there's just this section at the end of the table of contents that links to all the different maps that appear throughout the book.
Yes.
I like that.
Yeah, it's very good for navigation.
Very cool. So that's just an overview of what's contained in the book.
Let's get into it.
Okay.
I'm excited.
So the welcome to Theros section.
Yeah, you know what? I didn't read the introduction yet. I probably should have. I've just been like so excited by this book that every time I pick it up, I'm like flipping around and reading like a sentence here and a sentence there, and I feel like I can't, like, I'm still so excited that I can't just sit down and read it. Like, I'm still just all over the place with it.
Well, let me start read just like this one sentence, and it represents kind of something I already said. So this is like the first main section of that chapter.
Okay.
Theros possesses a unique metaphysical property. Things believed and dreamed here eventually become real. Right? So that's the whole idea with the gods and devotion. So the gods who have a lot of followers and a lot of people believing in them and fighting for them will become more powerful. But the other interesting characteristic that comes from this is that, like, to some degree, the geography of the world itself is in flux. So there's not like necessarily a fixed distance between two places, or the path to get there is not necessarily the same. And so when adventurers strike out into the world, there's like some increased level of uncertainty in where they're going to go and how they're going to get there and what's going to happen along the way. So I find that really interesting.
That is really interesting. I am looking forward to experiencing that.
Yeah, and then there's this notion of fate and destiny that is really important. There's sort of oracles involved here, but then of course there's people who go against their fate and their destiny, and so it's not meant to be like restrictive, but
it's meant to give you more to play with, because
yes.
If you choose a certain path because you don't like what the DM maybe came up with on the fly for your destiny, like instead of talking to you about it, maybe they just kind of say something, and if you don't like it, then you get to add to your character that you're trying to go against your destiny.
Yeah.
Or
yeah.
Or maybe you're going to come up with a different reason for why it's true, or whatever. You have all this extra role-playing material to sink your teeth into.
That's right. And then another main theme here is this notion of champions and heroes. Spoiler alert, that would be you.
Yeah.
But the champions and heroes, what's interesting about them is that by and large they are champions and heroes of a particular god. So you have like a pretty close relationship with one of the gods regardless of what your class is. And your main motivation is to further that god's interests. You might be getting quests directly from them, or just in general trying to follow their way in the world, but you will probably like communicate directly with your god. And the cool thing about the champions is like there's these sort of archetypal stories of champions past, and even though it's like talking about the same one, like the general or the vanquisher or the hunter, these tales are often like compilations of the stories of many different champions who sort of were a part of that same archetype. So they kind of merge everybody's stories together to create this like concept, and then that's like the story that gets told.
Yeah, one thing that you were talking about a minute ago about how each class gets to have a closer relationship with their deity, that is something that I always like. I frequently will choose cleric or an Aasimar character because I really like the idea of having this otherworldly connection, and or paladin or whatever, or warlock. Like I gravitate to these kind of characters that have this connection. So the thought that I could kind of have that, and I mean, I guess I could have had that connection before with any class, but like it's built in with this, like it's kind of more built in to the Theros world. So it's kind of like if you want to be a fighter and have this sort of divine connection, it makes perfect sense in this world, and you don't have to try and shoehorn something.
Do you know what struck me as kind of funny about this book in the face of what we've done so far with College of Lore is our background, our custom background that we created, the fallen deity background, sort of, I think it was meant to serve this kind of purpose, right? So that you could
that's why I kind of had the idea, is because I just love this connection to the divine or to something else, up or down.
Yes.
So kind of this whole book having that already kind of in play, it's super piques my interest.
Yes. Cool.
I'm excited.
I'm just scrolling down. I kind of skipped over history and myth.
That's everyone can find that one out on their own when they explore.
There's specific languages listed as well in this chapter, but I think we can kind of skip over that too. It's sort of like the Minotaurs speak Minotaur.
Yeah.
Surprise.
So, speaking of Minotaurs, why don't we talk a bit about character creation?
Sounds good to me. That's the next chapter.
the new sort of characters that you can be. They have a lot. They talk a bit about like your supernatural gifts and stuff like that, which I thought was kind of interesting.
Yeah, so the supernatural gifts are really, really cool. Every single character has one supernatural gift, and they're all listed here. I assume, like anything else, if you wanted to come up with something that wasn't here, you could just do that. But there's a good list here. So let me find one. Lifelong Companion
I think.
is the one that I'm looking at. So there's a little blurb that explains what the lifelong companion means, but you get certain benefits. So you have this boon aura. Your allies within 5 feet of you have advantage on saving throws against being frightened or charmed, provided you aren't incapacitated. And you also have Companion's Protection. When a creature you can see within 5 feet of you is hit by an attack roll, you can use your reaction to cause the attack to hit you instead. Once you use this trait, you can't do so again until you finish a long rest. That last little bit, that's usually, there's one sort of benefit of the supernatural gifts that you can kind of use once per long rest. And then you get this like table that you can roll on. So there's companion relationships associated with this one, and you roll a d6 and you get one of them. So as an example, if you rolled a 2, it would be another character is my sibling, or another character is my parent or child, or is a champion of my god, blah blah blah. So it's just kind of creating a relationship between you and somebody else in this case. But it wouldn't always
I love
be
that.
right? It wouldn't
Yeah,
always be...
I think that's such an important thing. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, and
it's such an important thing to kind of be able to build relationships with your other players and kind of build off the stories and that kind of thing.
Oh, for sure. But yeah, that relationship thing is specific to lifelong companion. So for example, if you chose inscrutable, you would get a d6 characteristic for inscrutable, and those are like, I was educated by a sphinx in the Dakra Isles, or I only speak in the past tense as if all things I say have already transpired. So they're all very unique.
Oh, that's exciting.
Yeah, they're all
and very story driven. Like whatever one you end up picking and go with, you're going to have a lot of material to RP with there.
Yes, exactly. Another thing too that they suggest is this like heroic drive. So they want you to take your ideal and amplify it to some degree, and and also to amplify your bond as well. So these are 2 things that you and your flaws. So they're sort of amplifying these like background features that already existed in the player's handbook, but they just want you to really like amp those up to the next level.
Yeah, that's really exciting. And I think it's such a good exercise in role play. It would be to do that, you know, really draw from your character and really put that into your game.
Yeah, for sure. This natal omen thing I thought was really cool too. So it's sort of like this little feature. So it says that the birth of a hero is often accompanied by signs in Nyx. Nyx is sort of like the underworld, kind of, or no, Nyx is like heaven. It's like the god place. Okay. Anyways, so you can use the omens table in chapter 4 to randomly determine an omen that appeared when you were born. It's up to you and your DM to determine the omen's meaning. So that's kind of just a cute little detail, you know?
That is cute. I know what my omen was when I was born.
What was it?
Jim Henson's Labyrinth came out that year.
Oh. I was born in 1984, so...
Uh-oh.
Cool. So yeah, I mean, I'm just scrolling through the different supernatural gifts. One of them is Oracle, so that's kind of cool. You can be an Oracle. There's some cool stuff associated with that one. Pious Unscarred is also really cool. Very cool. But then some cool stuff. We've got the races.
Yeah, we've got some new ones here, and some that did exist before, but are getting a new flavor in this book.
Yeah.
So it talks about humans a little bit, gives you some name ideas, but let's, humans. I'm just kidding. Humans are fine.
They are, but that section is pretty small because it's like...
It is. It's a couple of paragraphs.
They're humans. Yeah.
They're here. Yeah. Of course they are. Yeah. And then we've got the centaurs, which are, the human on top, horse on bottom.
Yep.
Do they wear pants? How does that work? You can find out if you buy this book. We're not sponsored. I'm just kidding. But yeah, centaurs are pretty cool. It looks like they're kind of talking about like merchant families and kind of like emphasizing your herd and stuff like that.
Well, and there's a couple different like bands of centaurs. So I think the first one they talk about is that Laguna merchant family, but then below that there's the fairies riders. So they're kind of separate and they have a bit of a different feel.
That's really exciting.
Centaur traits. Something I noticed with a lot, not all, but a lot of these races is there's like a strength buff on them. So I think for Centaur, Leonin, and Minotaur, spoilers, those are more of them, but it's like they're giant, they're big creatures, so I mean they just have a strength buff, which is fine, it is what it is, but it seems a little bit samey to me.
I guess they're really pushing that feel of like champions, and like many of the champions you read about were very strength based, or a few were like Dexy based, but like
of course, but and like what would you give the Minotaur if it wasn't strength, right?
Well, yeah, I'm not sure. What's their second? We're skipping ahead. Skipping ahead. I'm sorry.
For centaurs, it's strength by 2 and wisdom by 1. So that makes sense, obviously. I think.
I think they could have flipped that if they wanted to, though.
Could have.
Yeah,
like but it's
like
true, but they're like horses.
Yeah, they are.
They
got so many limbs they could hit you with.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's really a
lot of limbs.
And they're just like hefty creatures. You could ride one. I don't think that they like that. But
and if they ride you, then you're, they squish you.
Yeah.
Like get one of them sit on your shoulders, you'd be like, oh,
I don't want it.
Me neither. The next race.
And there's all kinds of other stuffs here too for the centaur. So they have hooves, they have equine build. There's all these features, so they're very cool. But yes, Leonin is the next one.
So how would we pronounce this? Is it Leonin or is it like Leonin?
I say Leonin. I don't know if that's accurate or not, but I say Leonin.
I'll say Leonin so that we cover our bases, so that either way we've said it correctly.
Yeah, we're correct half the time and incorrect half the time.
Yeah.
It's 50%.
Yeah.
That's good.
That's pass in a lot of tests is 50%.
Does it? I guess it's like just a pass. It's fine. They're lion creatures, is what we're trying to say.
They're really cool. They're like lion people, and like they got the big claws, and they're very strong and ferocious. And whereas Tabaxi, the other kind of cat race, is very, Dexy and stealthy. Leonin, I don't remember what I dedicated myself to say. It's too late. They're more about the strength and the ferocity and the bravery and getting in there and just...
So, yes, they're noble and fierce. They're quick to quarrel. They're prideful and self-reliant. They are really interesting because they are one race that tend to not be like super fans of the gods, right? Whereas everybody else, it's almost unheard of to not have a particular god that you devote yourself to. The Leonin, that's not the case, right? So they kind of are skeptical of the gods. They don't, like, they obviously believe in the gods because they do exist and manifest in the world, but they sort of think that they shouldn't get the reverence that they do, like that they don't deserve that. So you can choose an attitude as a Leon, and I think most of them are sort of like some variation of an explanation on why you don't revere a particular god.
Next up, we've got the Minotaur, or Minotaur, if we want to have two pronunciations from here going on out.
They're interesting.
They are. Yeah, they're very powerful as well. They're very strong. The first little section here is built to survive. So they're survivors. And their secondary is Constitution. Which one time I put a Minotaur into like a maze I had made like years ago when I was DMing. And I made her this like little old granny who was too tired to guard her maze anymore. And she was like knitting, and they like stumbled upon her. And it was just like, I feel like I would kind of like to see them have some kind of like intelligence or something buff. But that's just me. Because I associate them with like labyrinths and stuff like that.
But aren't they in the labyrinth because they can't get out?
And they were a monstrosity.
Yeah. So... yeah, I think the notion is like they can't get out of there.
They're sticking to that source material so tightly.
Yeah. Well, so it's interesting because like the maze is there, but it's not like they're stuck there. But the city that the Minotaurs live in, I think, is a maze city. So.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and they've got horns and all that stuff. So with all these creatures, you can like attack with your horns. Blah blah blah. Like it's pretty cool.
It
speaks to me though, because one of the things that I like about being a druid is like transforming into a different creature and having like a claw and a bite attack instead of like striking with a weapon necessarily. Although I think you still will be using weapon attacks or magic instead of those like horns or hooves or whatever. Because the damage is just like not super high for them.
Unless you went monk.
True.
Because then you could just flavor anything to be
that's interesting.
Horns or whatever.
Yeah, I like that. Okay, monk. That's on my list. If you guys don't pick a monk, then I'll have an NPC that's a monk. And you'll have to
there will be a monk.
You'll have to fight it, and you'll be like, no.
I should have picked monk. I might pick monk though. I did have some fun with.
I love monk. It's one of my faves.
The next race is the satyr. Satyr.
Satyr is how I say it. Yeah.
Satyr. I actually rolled up a satyr the other day to play a game with some friends of mine, and they are a lot of fun. They're very interested in having a good time and partying hard, I guess. Yeah. You can tell by the picture. I think this one was around online a lot.
Oh, yeah.
But, it's a very familiar shot. And I loved that. And like I made him a satyr druid. So and a lot of the eccentricities that you can pick to be a satyr are like, flowers are the most amazing thing ever. I want to pick them, wear them, and discover their silent secrets. Like it felt very druidic to me, so I just kind of leaned into that, and I'm having a lot of fun with him.
Yeah. And for the satyrs, they're one of the ones that kind of break that strength mold, so it's charisma and dex that you get for being a satyr. Yeah. Very cool. Ooh. The next one is fun.
The Triton.
The Tritons. So, yeah, they can live on land, but they can also live underwater. So, I mean, that's powerful in a lot of ways.
Yeah, definitely. They also have a bit of a strength buff. I can see what you mean now about it being very uniform across the board, but they also have Constitution and Charisma.
Yes, it's +1 in Strength, Constitution, and Charisma. But yeah, it's interesting because like Constitution, I think that this is the first time that's come up. So like, why
Constitution?
Isn't it?
No, the Minotaur had Constitution as well.
Okay. Anyway. So,
But yeah, I've never really looked much into Triton before. Were they a playable class in another
not
book?
that I know of. No.
Yeah, I can't remember. But yeah, they look really cool, nice and blue and other colors.
So you're amphibious. You can control air and water. You've got dark vision. You're an emissary of the sea, so you can like communicate simple ideas with aquatic beasts.
Like Aquaman.
Yes. You also have resistance to cold damage because you're a guardian of the depths. And that's awesome.
I think. And you get a spell?
Wall of water? I mean,
that would be
I don't want to
so cool
through the whole description, but I am imagining that this spell creates some kind of wall.
Maybe made of water.
I think,
maybe.
Yeah, probably.
We don't know for sure.
Not for
sure.
So
we don't want to make false claims, but
don't judge a spell by its name, you know?
Yeah. No.
Sometimes that is actually a really bad idea. You're like, wait a second, I thought this would be different.
Yeah, it's like when I was like excited to use mirror image, and I thought that it would make it so that I could like have my mirror image do something like separate than me.
Around. Yeah, but
and it's like no, it does not do that.
But it is a mirror image is a cool stuff. Anyway,
it is cool. Okay,
so
next we have some subclass options.
Yes.
So the Bard College of Eloquence. We're just talking at the same time because we're both trying to be polite, and then
we're like, okay,
we start at the same time. Yeah. It's easier in person, you guys. It's easier in person.
So much easier in person. All right, you go first. You do this one. I'll talk about the second one.
Okay. So the Bard College of Eloquence, which is kind of about you're just very good at talking. So it's not so much about like singing a song or whatever. You're just very eloquent. You're very good with your words.
It's the art of oratory, which I find very thematic, right? Because of like all of the philosophers and I love it.
Yeah. And you get like a silver tongue feature.
Yes.
Where you're a master of saying the right thing at the right time. So when you're making your charisma checks, persuasion or deception, you can treat a roll, like a d20 roll of a 9 or lower, as a 10. So the chances of you failing your charisma checks have just like been eliminated.
Yeah. It's pretty awesome. And then obviously there's a bunch of other stuff. These level up as you level up, just like all of the subclasses. But let's look at the very top one. At 14th level, you get infectious inspiration. When you successfully inspire someone, the power of your eloquence can now spread to someone else. Oh, when a creature within 60 feet of you adds one of your bardic inspiration dice to its ability, attack roll, or saving throw, and the roll succeeds, you can use your reaction to encourage a different creature that can hear you. So you transfer that bardic inspiration die to somebody else. So you get like 2 uses out of your die. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that is really cool. And it does, like you were just saying, it really feeds well into that theme of just, philosophers and people who were trying to influence each other, and, they'd get up and say something and everyone would be like listening and totally engrossed and taking all their words and running with those. So
it reminds me a little bit of the kind of feel that I lean towards when I'm thinking about Namalesa, my character in the Estracy campaign that we're starting very soon.
Less than a week now.
Yeah. Now, this didn't exist when I was creating that character, and I do want to go with the College of Lore for her for other reasons, not just because that's the name of our channel, but that is part of it, I think. But yeah, like that was how I was imagining her. And if you go back to our character creation session, I say that, right? I say she's not like acting or performing necessarily, like she has an instrument, but she's just using that to like noodle away while she spoken word like describes some historical adventure that she read about or whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, very similar to that in some ways.
It is. Yeah, I like that. I can't wait to meet her.
Me neither. Well, I can't wait for you to meet her. I can't wait to reacquaint myself with her because I forgot some stuff about her.
It has been a long time since we rolled those characters.
Yeah.
Next we've got our Paladin Oath of Glory, and you can take it away.
Oh, okay. So this is the there's a second subclass for Paladin, Oath of Glory. Maybe you should have done this because I don't remember. So
I don't remember this one either, actually. I was more excited about the bird.
Yeah. Believe they and their companions are destined to achieve glory through deeds of heroism. Okay.
Well, it's kind of cool because they get Guiding Bolt. Is that... I don't even know if that's something that paladins can get usually. I usually only associate it with like a cleric spell. But it's such a good spell, and it makes a lot of sense that this paladin would be kind of using that power to help his friends, like, get the shot. Because it gives others advantage on the next attack and stuff. So, and they've got like Inspiring Smite. Immediately after you deal damage to a creature with your Divine Smite feature, you can use your Channel Divinity as a bonus action and distribute temporary hit points to creatures of your choice within 30 feet of you. So it's a very team-based paladin.
I like that. Okay, the level 21 is called Living Legend. You can empower yourself with the legends, whether true or exaggerated, of your great deeds. As a bonus action, you gain the following benefits for 1 minute. You're blessed with an otherworldly presence, gaining an advantage on charisma checks. Once on each of your turns, when you make a weapon attack and miss, you can cause that attack to hit instead. Once on each of your turns.
That is so good.
If you fail a saving throw, you can use your reaction to re-roll it. You must use this new roll. Interesting. Oh, it lasts for 1 minute, and then you can't use it again until after you finish a long rest. Okay. Unless you expend a 5th level spell slot to use it again.
It is so good.
I like that.
I feel like that'd be really fun.
Yeah, that's cool.
Might have to explore that the next time we roll up level 20s to beat something up.
Sure. So there's also some new backgrounds.
Well, I think there's only one new background.
Oh, athlete. That's like, it's very Olympics, right?
Yeah. It even has like some art that's very Olympic looking.
Yes, exactly. So that's what that's meant to reflect, I believe.
And now we're into like the meat of the book, which is the gods.
Yes. Okay.
Now, I am not super familiar with these, but the art is so good.
Yeah, they're astonishing. I love them.
Before we started the stream, I was just like freaking out about the art and showing Kate couple of my favorite ones. Just like, look at this one. Look at this one. And she's like, I know.
I read
I've seen.
Yes.
Like, Jill.
Yes, so this chapter is all about the gods. It talks about relationships with the gods.
And the gods' goals, which I think is important because if your goals and your gods' goals don't necessarily align, what does that mean? How does that influence your game?
And so the really cool mechanic here, I think, is the notion of piety. So you choose a god who's sort of your god, and as you serve them, your piety level with them will increase. And so that manifests in, like, at the end of a session, if the DM determines that your actions that session were in line with your god's desires, then you'll gain a piety point. And
if they were not in alignment.
Chapter?
Yeah, there's
okay, now we're to Athreos, worshiping Athreos.
Piety. To some extent, piety is its own reward. Behaving in accordance with your god's dictates and ideals inspires you and might enable you to succeed where you might otherwise fail. Yeah. At your DM's discretion, whenever you increase your piety score, you might also gain inspiration. reflecting the improvement in the harmony between you and your god.
Yeah. So I think you start with piety of like 1 or 0, but then if you look at the first god, Athreos, you can see when you have 3 piety, you get Athreos' devotee. Your life is intertwined with the fate of the dead. You can cast Gentle Repose with this trait, requiring no material components, a number of times equal to your wisdom modifier. You regain all expended uses when you finish a long rest, blah, blah, blah. And then there's something else that you get when your piety reaches 10, something else when it reaches 25, and something else when it reaches 50. So for Athreos, you get Champion of the Passage at 50, which you can increase your intelligence or wisdom score by 2 and also increase your maximum for that score by 2. So, yeah, there's for every single god, there's going to be piety, like, rewards at those different levels.
Which is super interesting. Like, and they're pretty hefty, really. Like, that's a pretty big reward. And it looks like the other ones have similarly, obviously, like they'd be similarly and awesome.
Yes.
So it's a really cool way to further customize your character, I think. Like,
and just get like a little bit more when you're leveling up along the way.
Yeah. Or even in between levels, you know, like it's like, oh, I feel like I've been doing this forever. Oh my god, but I got enough piety points to get my Gentle Repose.
That's a really good point, because it isn't tied to leveling. So
no,
it's it's like a reward outside of that, which I think is really good and maybe needed, especially, I mean, it also expands the way that XP does as you level up. So those rewards are going to come less and less often. But yeah, it's interesting that it's not tied to leveling, so I like it.
Yeah, little extra something.
Yeah.
It's kind of like how in Ravnica, I think, was it that you would get like a spell or something if you were... Was it Ravnica? Oh, no, I can't remember. There was one of the books where when you were making your character, you would get a cantrip to go with it. And I can't remember what book it was now.
Like choosing the guild? Like you get a guild spell?
Oh, that might be what it was. Yeah. The guild powers. I think it kind of reminds me of that.
Yeah, for sure. So then, the bulk of this chapter is this quite a bit of detail about each of the 15 gods and what you get on their piety track.
Yeah.
And it shows the little constellation that represents each god, because each god is represented by a constellation in the sky.
Yeah.
And that's where all of the, like, starlight... Like, Nyx is supposed to be a very, like, cosmic-looking place, I believe.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
It's a really interesting chapter, and even just, like, flipping through it, you can kind of come up with a lot of ideas of what you might want to explore or who you might want to be in the game, really. It's like, oh, I want to pray to this one.
Yeah. They're awesome. Who's that?
That is Farika, the god of affliction.
Yes. Farika's curse.
She's pretty cool. So yeah, let's see. What's the next chapter? Because we can't just go through all these gods, even though I would love to.
Okay, so the next chapter is like the geography, right? So it talks about the mortal realm, and then there's a map of Theros there. And so you can see that it shows you that map, and there's even like a distance gauge on the map. But it says in the text, like, you know, everything is sort of oriented this way, but the distance between things and like the specific routes are kind of flexible, which I find really interesting.
That's really cool. It's like very much like what would be best for the story. Yes. Let's do that.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it keeps things interesting. Like, you never know what's going to happen, even if you've made a trip before. You don't know.
Yeah, exactly. That is a big thing. Like, you don't know what obstacles will be in your way or what kind of creatures might have taken up.
Or if you even know how to get there.
Yeah, you might get lost
Right?
this time. Yep,
Yes.
for sure.
Especially on the sea. That's a big thing about the sea.
Yeah. So, and then it kind of goes into all the different places, like a bunch of the different towns and cities and stuff like that. And it tells you a bit about what the people in that place are like, and what their
Yes.
what their government kind of is like, or what what the important bits are, I
Yeah.
guess. Enough for story hooks.
Yeah, the three main cities, there's three kind of main cities: Akros, Meletis, and Satessa. Akros feels very Sparta to me.
Mm.
Meletis is much more like Rome, I guess. Like there's philosophers and like the what do they call them? Oh, I'm still in Akros. Yeah, philosophers. What are they? There's an observatory.
Thaumaturges?
There's an observatory. You know, it's very like the birth of science, philosophy, that kind of thing. And then there's Satessa, which is really interesting. It's a very interesting place with like some interesting gender roles. So most of the people in Satessa are female because the females like lead, and then the males are
finding their own way in the world.
They find their own way and they leave, and like maybe they come back, but most of them don't come back, and they also take in like, oh, can you hear Roz barking?
Yeah, Roz.
Not back. They take in orphaned children and raise them, and the children in Satessa are just like running amok all over the place. There's no like real structure. Nuclear family. Like they just wander around and do as they please, and wherever they go somebody might feed them, right? Like there's no child who's like, this child belongs to such and such a person. And gender is also fluid in Satessa, so it explicitly says like some people might be born one particular gender and like transition and change into a different gender, and that's just part of it. I believe that Ophis Tower is like, the warriors of Ophis Tower are martially trained as women, but wander the world as men do. They gather information for the ruling council, blah, blah, blah. So this very sort of gender fluid, very differently structured social order, right?
Yeah.
Family doesn't really exist. Gender doesn't really exist. I found it a little bit interesting.
It is interesting. It could give you some really cool ideas.
Yeah. It's a cool exploration of like, breaking the molds of culture and society that we take for granted. So. Yeah. So I don't know how many of them
there's like a Leonin place and the Minotaur place and oh my god, Realms of the Returned, and that's kind of like an undead kind of thing.
Yeah, that's actually Oh, the
art kind of scared me.
There's a picture of the Minotaur town. Yeah, that's a maze there.
Yeah,
and those Returned are very interesting. So like you can die and go to the underworld, but you can come back as a Returned, but you don't have any of your memories from your life. So it's sort of weird.
It's like, why would I bother?
It's like this weird cursed existence. It is really an interesting idea.
Then we got the Siren Sea, and we got some mountains, the underworld. Yep. Yeah, there's all kinds of locations to spark interest.
Yeah, a lot of information about each one of them. So if you're like, oh, and then also it talks about realms of the gods. So that was all the mortal realm, right? But then there's Nyx, and then there is the underworld. And you can like travel into these areas. It's not easy, but you can.
Yeah, it's more of a place than a plane.
I think that this is in a future coming chapter, but like one of the things that you can do as a champion is go to Nyx and have your god like set you up with a challenge.
Ooh.
Yeah. I think, well, we're getting there maybe, so. A little foreshadowing.
Creating Theros adventures, maybe?
Yes,
That might have something to do with it.
It does.
Yeah, we've got a lot of advice on god-based adventures, which I started reading. I can't remember how far I got, but I wanted to see if there's anything I could implement in an upcoming campaign.
Right. I think that one of the cool things that they bring up in this section is like, obviously there's a lot of interaction and communication between the gods and the champions, and there's, so you can provide guidance that way to your characters and guide them, but it is a trick to make sure that you're not like railroading. It could be easy to do that here. So it's something to keep an eye out for.
Yeah, and like communicating through omens, and then it kind of gives you a bunch of tables that you could roll on with omens on them, which I thought was really cool. Yeah, I'm definitely going to be drawing some ideas from that.
Sure.
Divine intervention goes a little bit over that.
Blessings, miracles. Oh, divine ordeals is what I was talking about.
Ah.
So you journey into Nyx, and then after reaching Nyx, you request an ordeal. And as long as you're worthy, the god will provide you an ordeal. And generally speaking, if you've managed to make it to Nyx, then you're probably worthy, so you'll probably get one. But, so yeah, then there's some reward, right? You get some reward for having done that. You might get a magic item or a supernatural gift or some other kind of miracle or divine intervention. So maybe, I think, well, anyways, I don't want to say too many things, but it's interesting.
Yeah, we don't want to spoil it. So and then it seems like it goes on to each god and like what their area might look like. Like they give you a bunch of maps. I'm like peeking it up a little. I don't want to spoil too much. And talks about like what their villains might look like.
Or what they might look like as a villain.
Yeah. So yeah, and it kind of goes over each god in that way.
Yeah.
I didn't check to see if any were left out, but it doesn't seem like there are.
No.
They're all here, right?
Yeah.
Oh my god, the art. I can't get over it.
Oh. I guess this is still the same chapter, creating adventures, but after that whole list of the gods, there's this whole section, which I haven't read through yet, on nautical adventures.
Yes, I did see that.
Yeah.
I think it's going to come in handy.
It might. For Estersea, you mean?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it talks about like getting lost and maintaining relationships. I wonder if that has anything to do. It doesn't seem to. There's one thing I was interested in. I don't know if they cover it in this book, but like the morale of your crew and stuff like that. I don't think they cover it here though.
Interesting.
And then there's like a bit on underwater adventures, which I think is really interesting as well, and island magical properties. And they give some ideas of different islands.
And then underworld adventures as well. So similar to going to Nyx, you might want to go to the underworld.
Yes, a journey into death.
Yes.
Yep. I don't want to spoil too much. And then, is this an adventure they give you?
Yes. Then there's an adventure. So yeah, there's a little adventure you can run in here.
That's pretty cool.
Which maybe is a good, because the chapters that are left are just sort of items and beasts, so maybe we can quickly go through those after. But since we're in this chapter, which is where I stopped, because I just like couldn't handle it anymore, and I had to message Jill and be like, okay, I'm running something in this, it's gonna happen. So we're planning an adventure, and the way that I want to approach this is we're going to do like a character creation stream with the players. So it's going to be Jill and our friends Cam and Kate, right? It's a different
Yep,
Kate.
another Kate.
Kate with
spelled
a C.
differently and everything.
And so we'll do character creation on stream, but then what we're going to do for the rest of it is do a play-by-forum style game on Obsidian Portal. So that's a website that we've talked about before on our distance gaming video. And I've used it before to run just sort of like a text-based asynchronous play-by-forum game. And I want to get back into that and get better at doing that because I really enjoyed it. And so, yeah, we're going to try that to do something a little bit different. And then that website is also publicly available. So anybody who's interested, we'll probably do little streams where we like talk about it and summarize what's been going on. But
yeah, Lynn, I was thinking maybe what we could do with it is we do a stream where I'm kind of drawing our favorite scene or something, and we can talk a bit about it and just spend an hour just kind of
yeah. So I love that. But then, like, I think that the main way to digest that content will just be to check in on the Obsidian Portal page and read the adventure log, and you can sort of read it as like a bit of a book type thing, like a story.
I think it'll be fun.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to doing that. And the way that I have no ideas, I mean, there's certain things you can tell going through this that I gravitate towards, but I want to create the characters first, and then based on sort of the gods that you're serving and the way that the characters come out, I want to use that to inspire me to come up with like the plot hooks in the story. So
yeah, it'll be, and that makes a lot of sense with this too, because it would be kind of hard to, well, not hard, not impossible, but if you know who we are worshipping, it's much easier for you to weave something that we're interested in from that.
Yes, exactly. And I want your characters to be doing stuff that furthers their piety with their god, right? So I want to build that, whatever it is that your first like adventure is, I want that to be relevant to all three of you. So yeah.
Then we get into a few pages of different magical items and artifacts and things like that. Some seasonal stuff like seasonal arrows and cool whip, the whip of Erebos.
Artifacts.
It's capable of extending like an impossibly long shadow.
Yeah. Yeah, and this is very fun stuff if you play Magic, because a lot of these items are Magic cards.
Oh, that is really cool.
Yeah.
I love that idea. I love that they're kind of mixing these two worlds up.
Yeah.
Getting to experience Theros in a way that you've never experienced before.
Well, it immerses you a lot more in the lore. Like you pick up some of it from Magic, and I think you can read stuff that there's books and resources. Ew, look at this Cyclops eating like 17 sheep at once.
So we're in the friends and foes section, in case you're wondering what Kate's talking about. And there is a painting of a Cyclops whose eye opens like up and down, just eating sheep like popcorn. Oh god.
Disgusting.
We're gonna have to like blur it out.
Ew. And he's got another he's got a little satchel full of sheep on his side too. Yeah. For later.
What a sin.
Gross. Disgusting.
Yeah, he's going for it. So yeah, there's a lot of really cool monsters, and they take one thing that I appreciate too is they talk a little bit about the Kraken, and it kind of adds well to what the Kraken looks like in the monster manual, because it talks a little bit about like pushing the Krakens further, I suppose, like kind of making them more epic and things like that. It doesn't give you another stat sheet or anything like that, but it kind of got my sparks flying a little bit.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff in here that we read about in The Monsters Know What They're Doing, right? Like the Sphinx and Medusas
and then it basically just gets into the bestiary, where it just kind of goes over a lot of really classically inspired creatures that I'm assuming are all Magic cards. Are they?
Maybe.
Maybe.
Or,
They look like they
or
should
those
be, if they're not.
types of well,
Yeah.
Anvil Rot Raptor is one. Bronze Sable, yes, they are. I'm sure they are all magic cards.
Yeah.
Gold Forge Sentinel. Yeah.
It's really cool. And like there's these the nymphs of various elements, which I really like because some of them are guy nymphs, and I don't think I had seen anyone draw a guy nymph like ever maybe, so I thought that was pretty cool. And the Returned, those scary undead kind of people, and then the Satyrs and the Tritons. Yeah, it's really cool. I'm really excited to... Oh, the last little bit with the, like, epic style, or what is it, Mythic monsters?
Oh.
So they have a few here that are, I think the lowest CR is 15 for one of them, but they have these, like, epic mythic monsters here that you can slam into your game.
Yeah.
They're pretty good.
Sorry, I couldn't find that in your music.
My watch wants to participate.
He's like, hey, you haven't talked to me for a while.
I know. I was asking him about math earlier.
Oh, that's funny.
So yeah.
Yeah.
So after going through this, Kate, do you think you're going to end up buying the hard copy?
I want to at some point. I don't know when. I will wait till it like goes on sale or something like that. Like it might be a while. Because you have a hard copy, so if we ever played in person, we would have a hard copy. And I have the D&D Beyond. It has everything in it.
It does.
So
it does have everything in it.
I find it hard to.
The only thing you're missing is the smell, and you can get that from any hardcover book.
Flipping, I prefer a physical book. I mean, in some ways, I prefer to have both. We were talking about this before too. I really wish they would do some kind of thing with D&D Beyond, where you can like purchase the book on D&D Beyond, but get like a bundle deal, and maybe it costs a little bit extra or whatever, more than the hardcover alone would cost, but you also get sent a hard copy of the book. Why can't they do that? Tell me.
Because it's two different companies.
They need to work together.
Wizards of the Coast. I know, that would be nice. They did work together for that Dragon of Ice Spire Peak.
Right. I know they
thing.
can. I know they can do it. I believe in them. This is like, aren't they American? Come on, just get it done. We
believe in you. Someday, work together.
Anyway,
give us deals.
Yeah, I just want all of the things, and I don't want to pay. Yeah, I don't want to pay for the same book twice.
I hear you. Or 3 times, depending on if you want a copy for Roll20 as well.
Right. I would pay more for 2 versions of the same book. Right? But I don't want to pay like all this much more.
I know. It is a lot. I think my technique of like waiting when D&D Beyond goes on sale is going to be what gets me through, because it's like the cheapest you're going to get these is like through that big website that you order stuff online that I don't want to say the name of because they don't deserve any more advertising.
I don't like buying from there either.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So then you get, you can get the hardcover, but then D&D Beyond does have these massive... And we're not even sponsored by D&D Beyond, but here we go. You can get the D&D Beyond books on sale around like Christmas time or other kind of holiday-themed sales or summer. I don't know.
I think
there was a COVID sale, I think, months ago. Yeah. I don't know.
Well, that was smart because they knew that a lot of people were going to be wanting to play online, right? So
it was smart.
Yeah.
So that was us talking about the Mythic Odyssey of Theros, and I hope you'll check out our character creation when we end up making some characters in this world.
Yes.
And thank you for watching us.
Before we go,
bundle through this.
I don't know if anybody is actually watching right now, but we will post this to YouTube as well. Although maybe not before.
Someone might watch it someday, Kate.
No, but I'm trying to plug our stream next Monday or this coming Monday because it is the first episode of our Estrasy campaign.
I know. I'm nervous. I'm really excited, but I am nervous because it's been a long time since I planned to homebrew anything.
Yeah.
Because I've been like leaning a lot on pre-written stuff the past couple of years, really.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been really refreshing coming up with all kinds of new stuff and trying to take your guys' characters and ideas and weave them into a narrative. And I am really excited, but I am also nervous.
That's okay. I'm always nervous when I'm DMing too, so. But it's going to be fun. You know this. To be
Yeah, it is going to be fun.
And it's a pretty big thing for us. It's our first campaign, and so I do want to sort of plug it. We'll create maybe like a Facebook event for that day. We just want to start advertising that. So show up on Monday evening, 7:30, and we're going to have our first real session. So
same time, different day.
Yep. And then on Tuesday, we're going to have a little debrief about what happened in the session. So
we'll talk about it.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
Yeah.
Okay, friends.
Great. Yes, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah. And
hope you liked it.
Yeah, and look forward to seeing you next time.
Follow us on all the things, like our stuff, and be our friend.
Yes, please be our friend. We love having friends.
Yeah.
And you're awesome.
Bye.